Check this out.
Geeking Out with Joel Japitana. Geeking Out and the Geek Speak Show are powered by Collider.com, GeekTyrant.com, GameTyrant.co, Mightyville.com, RamaScream.com, and Zergnet.com. Here's Joel.
Hi everybody, today is January 9th, 2013. If you are listening to this, we have survived the apocalypse. Happy New Year. That said, let's start off with some lighter news. New episodes of Arrested Development are only months away after 6 long years. The beloved Blutes are returning. Not to TV, however. The entire season will be released on Netflix sometime this spring. There's expected to be 13 or 14 episodes. The new creator slash showrunner, Mitch Hurwitz, has confirmed that only Jason Bateman's Michael Bluth character will be in every episode, each episode following up on the events after the season finale in 2006. Oscar season is amongst us, and the nominations for the 85th annual gala will be announced tomorrow at 5:30 a.m. Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane, who is not related to Todd McFarlane, by the way, will be hosting the prestigious award show. MacFarlane has been advised by former host and former cat burglar Anne Hathaway, not to trust people if they tell him hosting rehearsals are going well. Apparently, she was surrounded by a lot of positivity that she was a little too loose when she and Harry Osborn had hosted in 2009. Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained is a wild card for any nominations, but the controversial slave period comedy drama action will be releasing a set of 8-inch action figures, which will be available on Amazon. They go for around $25 and are fully posable with tailored fabric clothing. Say what? Anyways, the 2012 Razzie Awards nominations have been announced also for their 33rd annual celebration of horrible movies. And surprise, surprise, Twilight leads the pack with a crap ton of nominations for Worst Picture, Worst Director, Worst Actor, Worst Actress, etc., etc. So maybe the end of the world did happen after all. Anyways, last weekend, Texas Chainsaw 3D topped the box office with $21.7 million, followed by Django at $20 million, and Bilbo Baggett's The Hobbit, which raked in a measly $17.5 million. Some upcoming movies for this year. Hugh Jackman returns in The Wolverine, which will follow Logan after the events of X-Men The Last Stand. Directed by James Mangold, the film will be released on July 26, 2013, and is set in Japan. Somewhat based on Chris Claremont and Frank Miller's take on Mr. Snick. More Iron Man 3 photos have been released featuring Iron Patriot, and those photos are tight. I repeat, tight. That movie comes out on May 3. Thor: The Dark World is expected for release on November 8th, 2013, and filming for Captain America 2 begins in March. That will be Samuel Jackson's next Marvel film, by the way. For you DC fans, Man of Steel will be released on June 14th, and Michael Bay has begun casting for Transformers 4. So far, they have casted Marky Mark Wahlberg and an Irish kid named Jack Rayner. The film is not a reboot and takes place exactly 4 years after the war in Chicago, says Bay. Talking about aliens and outer space, Paramount will be premiering a TV spot for J.J. Abrams' Star Trek Into the Darkness during the Super Bowl. This spot will be integrated with a new mobile app that will unlock exclusive content and all that ish. The Super Bowl, by the way, is February 3, just in case you don't watch football or know what a football is. And speaking about stars, Mark Echo is designing a Star Wars TIE Fighter flight jacket. In addition, there are also jackets inspired by R2-D2 and Chewbacca. They go for around $200 and are currently out of stock, but you can check them out at shopecho.com. Lastly, in comic book news, because this is a comic book show, Superior Spider-Man hits shelves today. Written by Dan Slott and illustrated by Edgar Delgado, this is the newest rendition of your friendly neighborhood web crawler and continues Marvel's Now campaign. Now. It's $3.99 and there are some pretty cool variants. So this concludes Geeking Out with Joel for this week. If you have any questions, concerns, problems, love notes, or death threats, please email me at joel@thegeekspeakshow.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at Joel Japitana. That's JoelJapitana. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Geeking Out with Joel Japitana.
People who get it, get it.
They're listening. You're consuming. You're watching it with your ears. Oh, just listen.
The movers and shakers of geek culture are heard here.
I know you gonna dig this.
Hey, this is Todd McFarlane, creator of Spawn, and one of the original founders of Image Comics.
I'm Ralph Bakshi.
This is Mark Zickery, writer, producer, and director of Space Command.
I'm Zach Whedon.
Hi, I'm Chris Hardwick.
This is the Geek Speak Show.
Here are your hosts, Henry San Miguel and Richo Rossini.
We're here. We made it. December 21st came and went, and nothing happened. Hey, Rachel, how you doing?
I'm good. How is everybody else?
Alive,
you can only tell
apparently.
Me. That's right.
And yes, she's still a big Star Wars fan. We're going to talk Star Wars. Of course, going to pick up right where we left off. So welcome to the Geek Speak Show, season number 4.
Time to start the year off right.
Yes, with the Geek Speak Show. And the video show is coming also. It's going to be more of a regular thing, like I said. It's going to be, you may see Rachel and I cameo every now and then, but it's going to be more Jay and Joel. But watch anyway. And you also see Mark Arnold on there and Louise. But like I said, watch it anyway. It'll be fun. I promise. I hope, I should say. But you guys listen to our award show. I'm sure there were a lot of arguments, a lot of turkey throwing and lightsaber battles, the plastic ones, because we don't have real ones. Rachel does, but she's not going to let you know how to
I'm not
build
sharing.
them. Yeah. I got a lot of emails from everybody. You guys can send them, Henry at thegeekspeakshow.com. A lot of them they agreed with, there were some disagreements with the comics and the other ones, but they all agreed that they're glad I gave it to Stan Lee, the Lifetime Achievement Award. You were on there with me. And Chris Hardwick, after they thought about it, said, yeah, I would have said Joss Whedon, but yeah, I guess Chris did a few things for our culture, for geek culture last year. So congratulations on that. And little tease, you may see Chris get his award, not live, but live on, I was going to say Memorex, yeah, show my age, but you may see me give him an actual award at one of the conventions, maybe Image here in Oakland or WonderCon when that happens in Anaheim. Little tease, be on the lookout.
But we'll capture it for you all to watch.
Yeah, because it is going to be a real award. It's not just, okay, we just give you an award and he doesn't get anything. He'll get something for it. The finger. No. Hi, Chris. So for what we're going to do now is, like I said, talk Star Wars. There's something really, really cool, really awesome, actually. It's not completed yet. It's almost there. Something that I had a chance to play with, not this big, but a Millennium Falcon. Kenner used to make this toy. It was like before the USS Flag toy from G.I. Joe came out, and now the helicarrier from the Avengers. That used to be the biggest action figure playset to play with. I actually was lucky enough to own it a couple of times in my lifetime. But we're going to talk to somebody who's topping Kenner. They're doing something even bigger than the USS Flag, even bigger,
literally,
than the helicarrier. Almost a life-size. Hey, there's an idea. A life-size helicarrier. Anyway, see, this is why we do the Geek Speak Show. We weren't on the air. We were on our break when we did the awards. We were on our break when this happened. We had The Hobbit, an unexpected journey, even though we all expected it since it was announced 3 years ago. I got to see it in IMAX. Rachel, did you get to see it in IMAX?
I didn't. I had tickets for it, actually, and then I had to return them and get other ones for prior commitments. But I'm really upset about it, so I don't want to talk about it.
As I said, you're losing your geek cred with that.
No, I'm not.
You weren't at a midnight screening?
I know. It's like the first one in however long, but it won't happen again, I promise.
Yeah, no, but the reason why I bring up IMAX is because, no secret now, the Star Trek Into Darkness 9-minute preview, I think it's the opening few scenes of that thing were included in that. Have you had a chance to see that since?
Oh, I have. I saw them online. And amazing. And the word that I was describing it to my friends was the suspense that was built by it. Oh, I'm so excited.
Okay, well, why not? Let's jump in. The biggest discussion wasn't The Hobbit, whether it was good or not. It wasn't anything else. It's been, who is Benedict Cumberbatch? Not who is he the actor, but who is he playing? Who's he's the villain, and we know his name is what is it, John Henderson or something like that. But is it Khan? Is it really somebody else? Who do you think it is, or do you think it's just a villain?
See, I debated that, and I'm starting to think that it's just a villain, but that it'll tie into something else. But I don't feel like I have enough information to speculate, so I'm just going to be surprised.
I don't have my spoiler alert thing loaded, but hopefully it's not a spoiler alert. I have my theory, and this goes back, and it goes back to the 2009 JJ Star Trek. Remember when we see little Kirk, the little kid Kirk, when he steals a car and his I guess his half brother is walking down the road there?
Right.
That's the villain.
If you could see my face right now, you guys, I have the blank stare going.
See, we should be doing the video show because they can't hear your face. No, but I say that because there's a few hints in the 9 minutes things and in that new trailer that was released also where at the very end he's looking at Kirk, Benedict Cumberbatch's character. He's looking at Kirk and he says,
"Right,
you'd do anything for family, wouldn't you?" And then when he said it, I said, "That's who it is."
See, I took that as family, as in his crew. So
yeah, because he is wearing a Starfleet uniform.
See, that's what I'm saying. And then you see Spock on the other side of the glass, and then you're like, oh, I don't know.
See, and now we're just like everybody else. Everybody's been talking about this. Everybody, oh yeah, The Hobbit was okay, but who the hell is Benedict Cumberbatch?
I know,
Who's he playing?
I know.
The Hobbit was good. I thought it was good. It wasn't epic like Lord of the Rings, especially Return of the King. It wasn't that big. But then again, The Hobbit was always, first of all, it was a kid book when it was first written, and second of all, it was more fantasy based, more than Lord of the Rings, and wasn't as dark. Meaning, it's not the end of the world. If it was just an adventure, Bilbo going on an adventure, and this one captured that. I thought. What do you think?
And it was beautiful to watch. You know what I mean? Like it had that same Lord of the Rings feel. The way they did the cinematography, which you guys can look it up, it was awesome. And even though it stopped you short, and it's continuing on to the rest, it's still something that is worth seeing and owning. So hitting that mark, I think it just makes it too.
Let me ask you the other obvious question, that because everybody was talking about either who's Benedict Cumberbatch or 48 FPS. Did you see it in that 48 frames per second format?
So I just saw it in the traditional theater, like I mentioned before. However,
You're starting to be like me.
No, I'm not. I've seen clips and things the other way, and it's awesome. So I'm all for it.
What does it look like to you, the 48 FPS?
It actually looks a lot like when you have your refresh rate on your high def TV set up really high, where it's kind of trying to bridge that reality and film feel. Traditionally, I like the traditional film feel and not that high refresh rate. But the way that this actually comes across is a little bit more realistic and less like a 3D ride. So that's why I say I like it.
See, and I don't like it not because of what it looks like or anything, but I don't like it because, again, the discussion is not on what great characters, the story, it's on the technical aspect of the film. When you go to a movie, it should take you to a galaxy far, far away. You should think those lightsabers are real. You should worry about whether Luke is going to get his other hand cut off, not, hey, I wonder how Peter Jackson filmed that, what kind of camera he was using.
However, on the same point, taking chances like this with the technology and doing something different is how we get to where we are. And I applaud anyone that's trying to do something different like that. So, unless
you have not such a good story behind it. You can have all the technology in the world you want. I said that about some.
Well, there are some limitations.
Amazing Spider-Man. But again, let's talk something that you and I like a lot. Star Wars. Like I said, somebody's building something really, really huge. Whether it works or not, I don't know. It's the ship that made the Kessel Run. And what was it? You should know this.
That is the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. In the meantime, here is somebody, I think it's Jay or Louise, or here's somebody talking about comics or movies or something. Here, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Comics Commentary with Jay Gibbs on the Geek Speak Show.
So this week in Comics Commentary, I've got good news, and I've got bad news, and I've got old news, and I've got new news, and a lot of stuff going on in the comics world. Gail Simone, who's a personal hero of mine, was fired unceremoniously, even though this is old news. This happened back in December, from writing her flagship book, Batgirl, which is going to be concluded, I believe, this week or next week with a Death in the Family, number 17, Batgirl number 17. So, yeah, please pick that up and then stop reading Batgirl, because there's just no point after that. I'm sure they're going to hire a good creative team and everything, but they're going to abort storylines that have been more than a year in the making in order to satisfy suits and not fans. So I can't stand behind that, and I'm really angry at DC. In happier news, and also more recent news, because I'm sure the Gail Simone thing is old, Sam Keith, another personal hero of mine, someone I respect very, very much in the comics industry, big, long-time purveyor of independent comics and very creative storylines, works as an artist as well as a writer. Anyway, Sam Keith has a new book. And it's called The Hollows. It's written by a guy named Ryle, and it is produced by IDW Publishing. So again, nice independent book. And it's very weird and very creative. I've read through the first issue, which is still on stands. 2 should be coming out next month. And it's brilliant and bizarre and has this fluidity and motion and surrealism that only Sam Keith's artwork can possibly deliver. And it's about a near future post-apocalyptic Japan where the world is divided into above the clouds and below the clouds. And above the clouds, the air is pure and it's breathable and rich people hang out. And they live their lives, and they're scientists and genius, and they're trying to improve things, if only for themselves. Below the clouds and on the ground, there are the Hollows, which are these ghostly apparitions / zombie apocalypse things that are running around consuming people's life energy and their souls. And they're very creepy, and they blob together and weave in and out of each other. And they're cool, but you don't want to be near them. And there are people who are just living in spite of them. The air is toxic, there's no food, there's no potable water, and they're just normal people trying to live their lives in peace. And there's a weird armless, furless dog thing. That's kind of cool, and I'm hoping that they make stuffed toys of it. But check out IDW's The Hollows. Support Sam Keith, support your local independent brick and mortar store, and support independent comics, because I think it's going to be huge in the future. All right, so I had a couple of other things that I wanted to touch on, like the fact that The Amazing Spider-Man is over, and Joel already went over that a little bit. But I don't want to give you guys any spoilers, even though I know what's going on in Spider-Man. And I'm going to let you guys, if you're into Spider-Man, if you're into... what are they called? Marvel comics? Silly Marvel. Then please go out and get yourself a copy, because I don't know how many copies they're putting out there, but in a few years, it's probably going to be a big deal in comics history that Amazing Spider-Man ended at 700 and rebooted with #1 of Superior Spider-Man. So that's on stands today. So go out, get your Superior Spider-Man, get the Hollows, get you some Batgirl, and have a wonderful week. And I will see you next Wednesday, because Wednesday is New Comic Book Day.
Hey, this is Todd McFarlane, creator of Spawn, and one of the original founders of Image Comics. And you're listening to Geek Speak Show. Thanks for coming.
We are back on the Geek Speak Show. 2013 is here, so are we, and so is Rachel.
How crazy is it that it's already 2013?
Yeah, we actually are here. December 21st came and went, and nothing happened.
Who knew?
Not the Mayans, that's for sure. So,
apparently,
let's continue where we left off last year. Star Wars, of course, Rachel always talks about it anyway, but now more than we have a real reason to talk about Star Wars, the new movies, everything that's coming out. I was mentioning to, I think, Joel, we were talking about that during the break. I said that a long time ago, in the galaxy far, far away, a long time ago, Kenner made one of the coolest at the time toys, which was it wasn't full scale, but it was pretty big, a Millennium Falcon toy. I was lucky enough to own 2 of those, and somebody is going to do something even bigger than that. A full scale, 1-to-1 scale Millennium Falcon.
And when we say that, we mean like life-size on 80-some acres of land Millennium Falcon.
The real thing. You can live in it. You can maybe fly it. Maybe. We'll find out. Chris Lee is the founder of the Full-Scale Millennium Falcon Project. You can go to our link section. It's on there for you. Chris, welcome to the Geek Speak Show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Pleasure to have you on. So the first question obviously is why, but also not just why, but once you decided, okay, I'm going to do this, why did you do it, and what was the first step you took to making this be a reality?
Yeah, well, the why, I seem to only have to answer the why question to non-fans.
Exactly.
Yeah, hardcore fans get it. They don't even have to ask why. They ask where and when and how can I help.
They ask, why'd you take so long?
Yeah, when's it going to be done? The second part of the question is how to get started. well, I mean, come on. When I was 12 years old, I mean, I'm an older guy, you know. When I was 12 was when the first Star Wars movie came out in 1977. And, you know, 12-year-old kid sitting in the theater and watching this film, just freaking out because it's so awesome, so unlike anything I'd ever seen before. And in that scene where they're coming down the steps into Docking Bay 94 and, you know, the camera pulls back and you see the Falcon for the very first time. And Luke lets out that whiny line of,
what a piece of junk.
Yeah. And I thought the exact opposite. As soon as he said that, I was in my mind, I was like, how can you think that? This is the most freaking awesome thing I've ever seen in my life. So at that moment, you know, I knew Luke was I don't know if this is a PG rated show, but Luke is a whiny bitch. And, and that, I got, you know, I had to have one of those. And at the time, you know, you're thinking like a kid.
Well, you mean the Falcon, right? Not the whiny bitch.
Exactly.
Just making sure.
Yep. Sorry. And in those times, at that age, you're thinking like a kid. So thinking I got to have one of those means I got to have a toy like that, or maybe, you know, Dad will build me a sandbox or bunk beds or a swing set or something cool like the Millennium Falcon. You never think in, you know, grown up terms. And so, of course, I got some of those things. You know, I had the toys and, you know, the swing set, all the crazy stuff. And then you get a little older and, you know, your means start to come to meet your imagination. You think, well, maybe I can do like a room in the house, or we'll do, you know, like a big model or a studio scale model, or, you know, a vehicle or something like that. And then, you know, you just get older and you get to the point where, why half-ass this? You know, let's just do it. Let's make the full-on thing. And that's kind of where we are. It went from a boyhood dream to potentially, you know, that we can really do this. We've assembled enough skill and resources and just sheer fan power to make it happen.
See, and from my 12-year-old self seeing the movie, when I saw the Millennium Falcon and we were inside of it, we're running around and there's, you know, the smugglers sections and all the hidden panels. And I said to myself, I want to walk onto the Falcon one day. And how amazing that you are going to make that happen.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's just, you know, I've said this in other interviews and to friends in the past, is like the moment I experienced that film for the first time, I knew someday, sooner the better, but someday I wanted to be able to walk around and exist in that universe, not necessarily, you know, to forever and you know, to sort of live there, but I wanted to be able to experience it in, you know, full sensory perception. And to me, that means, like you just stated, like the way you put it, to walk into it and be there. So this is the only way I know how. I mean, I've dealt with simulations in the past and 3D models, virtual reality, all that kind of thing. And those are great up to a point, but there's no substitute for the real thing. And when we say real here, we mean real, not movie set real, but actual real. Like that thing is going to be sitting like it's just landed in the, you know, on the ground, full size, and you can walk up and touch it and get inside it and do whatever.
So that's one of the questions I had initially, even when I first heard about the project, is how functional or how real is this going to be? Like, how are you deciding what is a light and what's a sticker, and whether or not, you know, it smells like it's been through a war or not, or what is that line?
Or like Chewie's been sitting in it.
Or yeah, wet dog.
Yeah, well, we're still in the middle of a lot of that right now. I'm trying to get as many skilled and experienced and eager people together across all the different disciplines that it's going to take to make this happen. And that, you know, that does come down to a lot of really special skills, just like, you know, audio and video and special effects and lighting and sound and, you know, upholstery even, you know, there's just all kinds of crazy things that are going to be necessary. And as far as, you know, what's real and what's a sticker, everything's going to be real. We're not going to fake anything if we can make that happen. If we have to fake something, we're going to fake it in a way that it doesn't feel fake, that, you know, it's just the obvious fake. Like, I mean, you know, in some of the real obvious senses, like the gunner ports that you won't be able to do the, you know, walk into them and crawl into them the way they did in the film, because we unfortunately don't have anti-gravity. So we're gonna figure out a way that the bottom and the top gun ports can rotate in a way that you can actually sit in them and not literally be facing straight up and straight down, because that just wouldn't work. So there's some corners we're going to have to cut, but we're going to do them in a way that that we can explain it away. So we can say, well, this, if you were on a planet with gravity and had to get into the gunner seats, this is the way they would rotate to make that possible.
I love that.
There can be some artistic license taken, and I think everybody would be willing to forgive that, just for the sheer fact of being able to walk into the thing and experience it.
Okay. Big question then. What about the Dejeric table? I gotta know. Because if I go and there's this amazing, if everything feels real, looks real, and then I want to sit down and turn this on, how are you going to make that happen?
Well, we've got, I wish I could remember, there's dozens and dozens of people and companies and groups that have come on to the site and volunteered their services. I can't remember where this group is from. I keep wanting to say Italy, but it may have been Spain. There was a group that one of the guys contacted me weeks and weeks ago and said that they are developing a fog screen technology, and that they would be willing to use us as one of their prototypes or one of their beta sites. And they're talking about developing the projection technology to make that as real as we can make it. Obviously 3D holograms don't exist yet, but you can get pretty close to simulating the effect of one. And fog screen technology has been around for a little while, but it's very expensive to do it well. But these guys are trying to come up with a more affordable approach, and they said they'd love to have us be their sort of showcase. Beyond that, I mean, the Dejeric table has been developed already by several different groups. Some of them in the Replica Prop Forum and the RPF, they've built the table. There's guys who modeled every single one of the characters, both in 3D and in sculpted. So the resources are all there, and everybody's willing to contribute. So I think just getting the right combination of people and skills together, and we can make it happen.
Just remember, always let the Wookiee win. So we're talking to Chris Lee, who is the founder and project leader of the Full-Scale Millennium Falcon Project. Exactly what it sounds like. It's a full-scale Millennium Falcon. We'll continue the conversation right after this. We'll get into what else is going to be happening, how real is it going to be, and the real question that Rachel wanted to know, is the hyperdrive going to be working or not? We'll do that in just a minute. Don't go anywhere.
The Geek Speak Show will be right back. The stories behind the stories with Mark Arnold, exclusively on the Geek Speak Show.
This is Mark Arnold from the Stories Behind the Stories, and today we have Jorge Pacheco. And Jorge is an artist best known for his work at Harvey Comics in the 1990s, and he's also worked for DC's Scooby-Doo and Looney Tunes comic book series. Hi, Jorge. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Mark. I appreciate it.
And let's see, today you seem to have a knack for drawing like every major funny animal and kitty character out there. Is this your preference, or do you desire to draw other genres?
I don't know if I have a preference. I guess the main thing with me is I really enjoy just drawing. I kind of got, cornered into the humor stuff somehow, but I've been branching out a little bit more. I've been doing a little bit more realistic stuff. I guess there's probably a bigger market for that. But I love drawing the Looney Tunes and obviously the Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones and the Jetsons, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, I just enjoy the drawing.
And how did you get your background? Did you take any particular schooling to learn how to draw these characters, or did it come natural to you?
I think it came a little bit natural. I mean, when I was a little kid, I used to draw. I was the kid in class that would draw instead of listen to the math teacher. So, I draw Charlie Brown and, obviously Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones and stuff like that. So I guess it's always been in me.
Mm-hmm. Now, was Harvey Comics your first professional position, and where you were hired as staff artist, or did you work other areas prior to that?
Well, I got kind of a funny story. The editor at Harvey Comics turned out to be Sid Jacobson, and he's been basically in the comic field since the infancy almost. He worked with Jack Kirby and Joe Simon, and he was the first real big editor at Harvey Comics many moons ago. And I graduated from the Joe Kubert School, and the first day out of school I went up to Marvel Comics in DC, Marvel and DC Comics in New York to try to get work. And I went into Marvel, and I actually I had an appointment with Sid Jacobson, and I ended up getting his assistant, and she really liked my work. And so, obviously I said, great, so they gave me a tryout, and I sent it to Sid because obviously he wasn't in the office, so I didn't get to meet him the first time, but I sent him the work, and he rejected it. And then lo and behold, 5 years later at Harvey Comics, I don't think Sid remembered that he'd rejected me, and he ended up hiring me at Harvey Comics. So I worked for Harvey Comics for 5 years, from 1990 to 95, until they stopped publishing comic books.
Where can we find your artwork online? I mean, obviously, you can just find comic book covers, but what's your website?
My website is obviously and it's Pacheco Toons, and it's PACHECOTOONS, Pacheco Toons. Okay. So you can see my work there and see my family. I have a lot of pictures of my family up there too. I have a little boy, and that was another blessing about being a freelance artist. Is for 2 years I was able to work and watch my son, grow up. When he's still a little kid. He's turning 5 in a couple months, but I was able to watch him and work, which was a challenge, but a lot of fun.
And any personal appearances for you in the near future, or like at conventions?
I actually had a show in San Diego with a bunch of other talented artists at the comic convention. Batten Lash, I don't know if you know who he is. Yep. He's a pretty famous cartoonist. He writes a lot of stuff for Archie, and he has his own Supernatural Law comics. I'm sure he'll appreciate me giving him a plug.
Yep.
Supernatural Law, and they had a show at his gallery, and I was one of the artists that was featured, and they had that on for about a month. So that was very exciting. And there's a lot of little conventions I still go to, and locally the San Diego conventions, and they have one at the Town and Country. I'm thinking about showing my work there. And I guess there's no other place other than just checking out my work online. I guess that's the best place to go.
Okay, well, we'll do that.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you again, Jorge, for being my guest today, and I appreciate the time. I
really appreciate it, Mark. It was nothing but a pleasure, and if there's anything else you need from me, please don't hesitate.
Okay, I will give you a call. Thank you very much. Sure. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
You can hear the complete story behind the stories by going to funideas.50webs.com. That's 50webs.com. funideas.50webs.com. The stories behind the stories, exclusively on the Geek Speak Show.
I'm Zach, and you're listening to the Geek Speak Show.
Hold on a second. Once more, with flavor. Yeah.
Oh, I'm Zach Whedon, and you're listening to the Geek Speak Show.
It's compelling! What's gonna happen to these kids? Yes. I agree. Sure.
Big year for the Whedons last year. This year, we'll see. Iron Man 3 is coming in. We'll see what happens. So it's back to the Geek Speak Show, back to talking Star Wars again. What else do we talk about here? Especially with Rachel here. Somebody is building, they beat you to it, they're building a life-size Millennium Falcon. And it may fly, may not. We'll find out in a second. I was thinking actually during the break, Chris Lee's on he's on with us. Chris mentioned that when he first saw the Millennium Falcon and Luke made his infamous line, "What a piece of junk," he wanted that ship, the Falcon. I always wanted the first ship you see, not the Tantive 4. The second ship you see, the Star Destroyer that just keeps going and going and going.
Of course you did.
Is a project and a half right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
we're trying to be a little more realistic with our goals.
So Chris Lee, he's the founder and project leader on the Full-Scale Millennium Falcon Project. FullScaleFalcon.com if you want to go to directly, or just go to our link section. It's on there for you. You can find out even more, or maybe help out in any way you can. Chris, how can they help? And also, besides you, who else is on the team?
Well, we've got several people on the main sort of the founder group of the team. Myself, my fiancée, Leia. Yes, her name's Leia.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And Greg Dietrich, who was the guy who kind of kicked me in the pants to get the whole thing actually moving. He's the one you'll see building. Right now he's working on the cockpit. So you see a lot of the picture updates of the cockpit. He's doing all that work. I'm in Tennessee. He's in Alabama. Stinson Lenz is the wizard 3D guy who's done most of or all of the rendering and dimension drawings that we have that we're working from right now. He's up in Pennsylvania. We've got several people here locally that are helping out, and then there's just dozens and hundreds of people all around the world who are starting to contribute. We've got people in the UK, people in New Zealand. A lot of these people are doing either research work for us in their local areas, which is really important because, especially in the UK, when these films were shot, they were done in studios in England. And a lot of the models that were built and the sets had lots of, in the prop building world, we call them greeblies, which are basically just, parts that are stuck on the inside and outsides of things to make them look more techy. And a lot of the greeblies, both the full size and the model greeblies that were used on the Falcon and most of the other ships in Star Wars were taken from 60s and 70s era British vehicles. So cars, trucks, airplanes, military vehicles, boats, that kind of stuff. And so it's very difficult to find a lot of those parts in the U.S. because they're not American parts and they're 30, 40 years old. So there's one guy in particular, there's several guys looking around, guys and girls, but there's one guy in particular who's really become a superstar for us, and he is doing the legwork and tracking down these parts, and he has an amazing eye for finding this stuff. And if you get on the site and look under parts, you can see a lot of these crazy finds that he's made of just these obscure parts that you see hanging on the wall or sticking out of a panel or something in the Falcon. Nobody really pays that much attention to him. And this guy's figured out that this is a relay unit off of the inside of the engine of some jet that was used in, World War II or something. It's just crazy.
So you have found all these people from all over the world. So for those of us like me that are like shedding a tear at the thought of being able to walk onto this one day, what are the things that we can do to help with the project, whether we're nearby or whether we're, another country away?
Right. Well, for folks that are nearby or who can get nearby coming soon, and I don't know how soon right now, but once we start the actual construction on site, we're going to be planning lots of Falcon weekends where people can come down and contribute, and those will be wide ranging as far as what we'll be doing. For those who want to actually construct things, we're working on an extension to the website, working with some guys and trying to get some more people involved to develop some web software where we can have collaborative, almost crowdsourced construction processes. So we're going to have the entire ship laid out in 3D and basically break the ship up into hundreds or maybe thousands of components. And they'll be of all sizes, from a few inches around to maybe 20 feet long. We're going to identify all these components, build them into a database, and each component will be basically have a description and how many of them are going to be needed, what the drawings are of these things, what materials they're made out of, what the methods of fabrication are going to be, what kind of skills you might need, and what kind of tools you might need. And then people can go online almost in a social media fashion and claim a component as their own.
Oh my God, that's genius.
And then they can work on it. They can upload their progress, their pictures. They can talk to people about it. And then when it's finished, we'll figure out how we're logistically going to either get it shipped or, picked up and trucked over to the site. And then we'll have, real sort of meetings and gatherings so people can bolt their part onto the superstructure and even sign it, autograph it, put a plaque on it, whatever you want, so that there's a real physical piece that you've contributed and put on it. And in this way, hundreds and thousands of people can actually take part in making this thing a reality physically. And then those who aren't able to either build or construct things can still contribute in helping put the things together. So that's the way we want to get it done. Sort of a wrapper around that is we want to look at developing the site into just as shorthand, I've been calling a maker camp or a maker's retreat. Think of it like a place where you can go and take classes and workshops and learn how to do things and make stuff. But, oh, by the way, down in the center of the complex, there's this spaceship that we're building, and we're using all the skills that we're learning to do that. And the big advantage there is that everybody knows what this thing looks like. There's no mystery. You don't have to, you say we're building a Millennium Falcon. somebody might say, "You're doing what?" But it's usually out of disbelief. It's not that
Right.
they don't know what it is. So, we have the advantage in that everybody has a picture of this in their head. So we can say, yeah, you're building this, and then you want to build this piece right here. And we've cataloged that's, exterior mandible greeb leaf 345 or whatever. And so-and-so is working on that, and you can contribute. So we're trying to approach it from the kind of nonprofit educational side as well. Obviously, we're not looking to make money off of this. It's, legally we can't anyway. It's not our intellectual property. And Lucasfilm has been super nice about letting this happen. So we want to, and they're big into education as well. George donated billions of dollars that he made from the Disney sale directly to education. So
right.
Sort of keep that line of thought going.
Well, and people can also, if they go onto your website, so fullscalefalcon.com, they can buy a T-shirt, right? And that can help support the project as well?
Absolutely. We're doing everything we can. I mean, we don't make a ton of money on the shirts, but it's a good way to get awareness out. And, the money that we do get on there goes toward paying for web hosting and development and towards the software and some of the costs to maintain the physical building site. Because, I bought 88 acres several years back with the purpose of doing, the idea of having the purpose of doing this. So there's some costs involved in maintaining that property. So a lot of it's going towards that, but we are stockpiling as much as we can for whenever we do need to put it towards materials or whatever. And this is a huge undertaking, so none of us are laboring under the delusion that we're going to pay for the construction off of T-shirts, but every little.
Okay, so let's say we get through everything. We've built it. We've done our Falcon weekends. We've been following your website and on Twitter, and everything's just about done. Once this thing is complete, what are we going to do with it? I mean, are we going to do the Kessel Run? What are we going to do?
Well, everybody's asking, is it going to fly? And my response is, I surely hope not, because Tennessee is in Tornado Alley, and the last thing we want is this thing to take off. But I think there's so many activities that we've been planning in our heads, and people have been coming up with. I mean, even down to, it seems like every interview we're on, especially podcasts, people are like, can we do an episode from the cockpit? And I'm like, of course you can. Yeah. There's all kinds of things that can happen. I mean, every fan group is going to want to make a pilgrimage and shoot their fan film or have their pictures taken and inside and outside. There's, who knows if Disney needs a shooting location with a real Falcon, we'll be there for the next Star Wars movies.
That is a good point.
Yep. And then there's always more that can be done. I mean, it's, after all, it was sort of the hot rod or the muscle car of the Star Wars universe. So, it's always going to need work. We're always going to want to swap things out, improve things, change things. And then I think we can expand from just the site around the immediate area of the Falcon and maybe build other ships or maybe build a replica of Docking Bay 94 up around it, or who knows? It's going to be built sort of down in a valley with some hills around it, and up on the side of the hills, maybe we build a few TIE fighters so that they look like they're chasing it from up above. Who knows?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited already.
So we're talking to Chris Lee. He's the founder and project leader on the Full Scale Millennium Falcon Project, fullscalefalcon.com if you want to learn more, get involved somehow. Now, Chris, you mentioned what the Rachel and me arguably was the biggest announcement last year, that towards the end of last year, was the Disney Lucasfilm merger. Lucasfilm, everybody knows they were very fan-friendly with fan films and everything. How now that it's officially Disney's, how have they approached you in any way? Have they said anything, or have you not even bothered telling them about this?
Well, there's an old saying, don't poke the bear. And we're not doing that, but we did receive some communication. I'm heavily involved for long-term involvement with the 501st Legion, with the R2 builders, with the Rebel Legion. And we did receive direct communication from the fan relations group at Lucasfilm saying that, don't sweat it. Everything's going to, business as usual. And you're right. Disney is very aware of the fan component and very supportive of it. And Lucasfilm has been all along. So I think we're going to be okay as long as we do keep it a fan project, a group project, nonprofit, and do it by Lucasfilm's rules, which we've so far stuck to as closely as possible.
Okay, so let's get into the Falcon, not literally because it's not built yet, but how far into the Falcon are you?
We have a complete dimensioned 3D model, which is the next step is going to construction drawings, which are we have an architect who's helping us out. We also have a structural engineer who's helping us out. The cockpit is well underway, under construction. The top and bottom gun turrets are being worked on. The radar dish is being worked on starting in February. Several large components in the main hold, like the computer console, the one that 3PO talks to. Like I said, the chess table, the joystick, all that stuff. The chairs, the ejection seat chairs. Let's see what else. Landing gears being worked on. So there's lots of the sort of large signature component pieces are being worked on already. We're hoping sometime this summer to be able to do the final site prep and be able to dig the foundation holes to pour the concrete, and that'll be sort of the big, groundbreaking sort of situation where it's really going to happen because we've actually started real construction and not just component pieces. And on that, from that aspect, we've gotten lots of response. There are construction companies. You think about how many industries there are out there and how many different trades and disciplines there are, and how many sort of correlate that with how many Star Wars fans there are out there. And there's a Star Wars fan everywhere. I mean, there's guys that own crane companies and construction companies and logging companies, because this is on a wooded site. Some parts need to be cleared still and roads built. And there, guys are like, I'm a big Star Wars fan and I own a, insert blank, a concrete company or a steel company or whatever. So there's plenty of resources out there I think we're going to be able to call upon to get this done. But right now we're still heavily into planning to make sure we do this right, because no one's ever done this, not even Lucasfilm. Everything they built was a movie set and wasn't designed to last more than a few weeks. And some of that you can sadly see firsthand in some of the photos of the backlots at Elstree when they tore the sets apart and threw them outside, and they just sort of fell apart under the weather. So ours is meant to last. And so it's going to be built like, the construction methods are going to be like metal construction for commercial buildings. It's going to be built up on piers, like the landing gear. All 7 landing gear feet are going to be like piers, so it's almost like a cantilever beach house kind of situation where it's standing up on poles. And it's gigantic. It's huge. It's 114 feet long and over 80 feet wide. And from the ground to the tip top of the dish is a little over 30 feet. It's almost 3 stories high, which is a lot bigger than it was in the films from the outside. The set that was built for the first film was about 80% scale, and the set that was built for Empire was only about 65% scale, which you can really tell when you see Han outside working on the hull and the sparks start flying in the cockpit and Chewie's going crazy. Chewie looks like he's sort of crammed in there. So that was a big challenge for us too, figuring out how to fit, how big do you make the outside so that the inside can fit? And so we've been, it's taken years to get to that point, but we figured it out. And fortunately, what we figured out was also figured out by several other groups of people almost around the same time. And so we've got multiple groups who have come to the realization that these numbers are what they are, and that's how big it really has to be to fit those sets inside. So we feel pretty good about that right now.
Yeah, the Empire didn't have Wookiees in mind when they built it, but Chris Lee does. And if you guys own your own construction company, or you just have your own hydro spanner and you want to get involved somehow, just go to fullscalefalcon.com. Go to our link section. It's on there but fullscalefalcon.com if you want to go there directly, get involved, volunteer, do anything. Before we let you go, Chris, let's talk like the Star Wars geeks that we are. When the announcement came in October, what was your reaction?
I initially thought, holy crap, what's going on? This is wrong. This can't be good. Because, it's like somebody, coming into your room and mess with your stuff. You're like, no, don't do that. But then I started thinking about it. I was like, well, wait a minute. Look what Disney did with Marvel. Look how freaking awesome the Avengers movie was. So I think being, like we said, as aware as Disney is of how important the fans are, I think hopefully their stance will be like it is with Marvel, where they've left Lucasfilm as a fully intact operating unit. Kathleen Kennedy is still CEO. Lucas stepped down, which in my opinion can only be a good thing. I mean, he's creative genius. But you look at all 6 of those films, which really there are only 3 Star Wars movies. But then there were those 3 that were made for children afterwards. But if you look at all 6 of those, the one in my opinion that is the best film, not my favorite is the original Star Wars, but the best film in my opinion is Empire, and Lucas neither wrote nor directed that, and it's the best of the Star Wars movies. So hey, there's your formula. Keep Lucas from directing or writing, which is what's going to happen now because he is no longer in that position. So I think Disney's they've already announced that they've got, Michael Arndt is one of the writers, looking for directors. I think they're going to do that. They're just going to let the franchise run on its own, and they're just going to lob incredible talent over the fence and say, hey, use this guy. And I think we're gonna have some great success. But no, once I thought about it in those terms, I had no problem with it. And then we got some very reassuring emails from the fan relations department saying, "Guys, don't sweat it. Everything's going to be okay." So then we knew everything was going to be okay.
Yeah, Rachel and I talked about it here because it was a pretty big announcement when it came out. And I'm a big Marvel fan also, and I had that same feeling when the Marvel announcement was made, but. If they do what they did with Marvel, like you said, because Kevin Feige is the one really who's steered the Marvel movie ship this whole time. Disney's just in the background. If they do the same thing, let Kathleen Kennedy and whoever else run the Star Wars franchises into wherever it's going to go, we'll be fine.
I think we will.
Then we have hope.
Yes, there's always hope.
Yeah, and this obviously is just fan speculation, but what do you think we'll see in 7, 8, and 9?
I don't know. I really.
Or I should say, what do you hope to see?
I really hope there are no cute animals with accents.
We hope to see your fiance.
And I do hope to
Jar
see.
Jar.
Yeah, exactly. Cough, Jar Jar. We have a private, a sort of homespun campaign here that we're trying to go viral called Leia for Leia 2015. My fiance Leia, who looks uncannily like Carrie Fisher in costumes as Leia at cons, is really pushing to have something to do with the film. So I'm hoping we can see some great talent as the characters that we have come to love. I would love to see some cameos from, some of the older original actors. I don't know how that would play out, but I'm excited to see what the way I heard it described was new stories with existing characters, like not inventing or pulling characters out of the woodwork and writing complete stories around them, but telling more angles about the characters that we're already familiar with.
Right.
I'd love to see a bounty hunter movie.
Me too. I vote for that.
Yeah. How does all that work? And then, of course, what happened after? What is the whole Sons of Skywalker thing? What happened with Leia and Han? Everybody wants to know that. And then I would love to see some in-betweens. Like, we hear all these stories about the Falcon was won in a card game between Lando and Han. I want to see that. I want to know the circumstances around that. I want to see the other Carillion freighters, because it's just one. It's like a Chevy. There were hundreds and thousands of them made. So I want to see the other ones. So I think they can do a lot of that without going the full route of inventing all of this extra stuff that we have to deal with, like trade embargoes and all that stuff that really killed it for me in the prequels.
Midi-chlorians.
Yeah, just leave that stuff alone. Just talk, and George, that's one of George's faults. I mean, I love him to death, but, he really wanted to talk more about the tech in the universe than he did the individual characters. And so I think having directors and writers that are more character oriented is really going to help, because that was one of my biggest problems with the prequels is I didn't care about any of those characters, not a single one of them. And so if that's the case, I'm just watching a bunch of CG, and I can do that in a lot of other universes. And so I really did care about most of the characters in the original trilogy, with the exception of the Ewoks. But sorry.
It was a hint of what was to come next, Jar Jar.
Yeah, that was yeah. But, I really did care about them. And I want to care about a character in a Star Wars movie again, the way I did in those original films. So I'm hoping that's where they'll steer it.
This is like real morbid, but you and I, Chris, we were probably one of the few people who were actually cheering in the theater in that one scene when the Ewoks get shot by the ATS team. Rachel's probably making that face at me.
I am.
Yeah, there's degrees of that, but yeah, I know how you feel. I'm like, oh, can't be for real here.
Yeah, so we'll definitely see what Chris Lee is going to be up to pretty soon. Chris Lee, he's the founder and the project leader on the Full-Scale Millennium Falcon Project. Exactly what it sounds like. Full-Scale Millennium Falcon. Functional? We'll see. What time will tell. FullScaleFalcon.com is a website. You can guys go on there and learn all about it, watch the progress, or get involved somehow if you can. Chris, thanks a lot. You are welcome back anytime, and do update us on what's going on, and we'll definitely, like I said, we'll have you on anytime.
Oh, absolutely. As soon as we've got something big, the next big thing to show, we'll make sure everybody knows about it.
Okay, thanks, Chris. And Rachel, you take it. You know what you want to tell them?
I do. May the force be with you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the first show for 2013. Of course, picked up right where we left off, talking more Star Wars. Yes, Rachel had something to do with that.
That's okay. They like it.
So we're going to take up Chris Lee on that, right? When the rest of the podcast go and broadcast from the Millennium Falcon. You and I, of course, have to broadcast from there.
I think maybe we need to do video because why would you not?
Oh, yeah, we have the video show now. Of course we can do that.
Right.
Plus, well, gonna give it away a little bit. Not no spoiler, but you, Rachel, you produced a very cool looking and very apropos intro for the Millennium Falcon. We can have that playing in the cockpit. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Oh, wait till you guys see this. It's gonna be amazing. And if you're lucky, maybe you can convince Henry to cosplay this as well.
I do have the pants with the red Corellian stripe, and I do know what it means too. So next week we'll talk not Star Wars. Well, maybe with Rachel here. Of course, we're gonna talk Star Wars every hour, every time, every chance she gets. But we're gonna talk about another movie, sort of George Lucas related, only in the fact that Steven Spielberg is his friend. Steven Spielberg made a movie, well, a lot of movies, but one that was not quite sci-fi, but it did make an impact on us geeks. It made us be afraid to go into the water. Yeah, that one. You're singing the song now.
Yeah.
We're going to go inside Jaws, not literally. Remember Jamie Benning? Of course you do. He did Star Wars Begins. There's your Star Wars reference. Star Wars Begins. We should just rename this show the Star Wars Geek Show. Trademark that. We're going to do. He's going to do his filmumentaries inside Jaws. He's going to talk. Well, he doesn't talk about it. You guys know what it is. The filmumentaries are pretty popular, so we'll do that. We'll talk, of course, Marvel now. So we're going to talk to a couple of people. Number one, Dan Slott, writer on the last one. Yes, it's over. The Amazing Spider-Man number 700. He wrote that one. He wrote the Goodbye to Peter Parker and Spider-Man, sort of, because now we have the Superior Spider-Man. Number one just came out. Well, it'll be out by the time you listen to the show. It'll be out in stores, in your comic book stores on New Comics Wednesday. We'll talk to him about what we can expect from Superior Spider-Man and the editor-in-chief, Marvel editor-in-chief, Axel Alonso, who will talk to us about all the new titles coming for Marvel now and a few other surprises. So, Rachel, you know what to say. Go ahead and give it to us.
You guys come back next week where we will speak more geek.
Bye. The Geek Speak Show will be back next week with a brand new episode. In the meantime, follow them on Twitter at Geek Speak Show 1. That's the number 1. Become a fan on Facebook. Subscribe on iTunes. Watch special event coverage and the Geek Speak video show on YouTube/Geek Speak Videos. And listen to past shows in the archive section on thegeekspeakshow.com. A big thank you to the Geek Speak Show's content providers, GeekTyrant.com, Collider.com, RamaScreen.com, and MightyVille.com. The Geek Speak Show.